right, guys, welcome to this week's edition of Southern Woods and Waters. I hope y'all are having a great Thursday evening so far. Sorry, we're having a little issue getting set up here. Hope y'all are having a great Thursday evening so far. Got a great show set up for you guys this evening. We're going to be doing a lot of different things tonight, but we're going to be heading first and foremost down to the Pickwick Dam, and that's with my buddy J.R. Sweat and Terry. We went down there, and of course, as y'all can see, Terry's got Mr. Terry Peoples in the studio with us tonight. We're usually talking crappie fishing, Terry, but we switched it up a little bit, didn't we?
We did.
Went for some white bass and went from little crappie jigs we're usually throwing, and we're throwing some flukes. So we're going to be talking about that tonight, and we're going to be talking about the difference in the setups we were using. Terry and I were both using a different setup that day, same bait, but they were rigged differently.
Did you catch them or did he catch them?
He caught him.
He got you on that one, didn't he?
He got me.
I got him on numbers.
He
got me on size. He got the big fish of the day.
That's good.
He did get the big fish of the day, but Nealon was the one wheeling them all in. He was the one doing most of the catching.
That's right. That's the most important.
I think the difference truly was, and we're going to show the setups here in a little while in the second segment, but I was using a leader. So I was rigged more Carolina rigged. I had a leader, and that bait, obviously, in my opinion, was just more lively looking.
Right.
Now, the difference is Terry was fishing just a straight jig head, but he had more contact with his bait.
Right.
So, I mean, there's advantages to both.
Sure.
But we were using both of those methods. But we're going to be talking about that tonight. And then also, you can see all these rods around us. These are just a couple Dayton had in the back of his truck.
That's all I got left. I've only got like 8.
But we want to talk a little bit about tonight too, Dayton. We had a caller last week and then we had a few questions on Facebook to go along with it. But it's about different line sizes and pole sizes, and why are we using an 8-pound test with a spinning reel versus a 14-pound test with a bait caster?
Sure.
So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. You've got these things rigged up with everything from hair jigs to big spoons. So we're going to look at some of these rods and why this particular rods are why you're using.
Absolutely.
And get into some of that, because that's very, very important. As important as the bait you're using and the fish you're after is
the line you use and the rod.
It's just as important.
Yeah.
So, and also it comes down like reel ratios. That's a big deal too.
Yeah.
When you talked about that just a little bit ago.
Different type of baits.
You have an 8.3. I think it's an 8.3 on that one rod, and you were talking about the difference in having to
burn it or just barely crank it. Same way with crankbaits and other stuff.
So now we stepped our lines up that day a little bit, Terry. We're usually throwing 4-pound test line. Now this particular day, I know I was using 8-pound test, and I think you were throwing 6.
I was throwing 6.
So we stepped it up a little bit, but we had a little more luck than some of the guys around us, and I think it's because we were using that 6 and 8, and they were using a lot heavier line.
Sure.
Now, I did get my heart broke. I did get my heart
Daddy got away from you?
I did. I had a heart breaking. I did well for quite a while, and I think he got up there and saw that boat, and it was over with,
he got that thump, and he thought he was hung. And he went to the left on him, and he couldn't even turn him. He couldn't do anything with it.
Now, you've seen what Priest has done brought out, ain't you?
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
We are. We're going to get into that here in just a little while. New Priest Lake record call.
White crappie.
And so we definitely have to talk about that. First of all, congratulations to Eric Dickens.
With Brian
Carper's Guide Service. They were out guiding the trip this past week, and we've got a picture we're going to share here in just a little while. But Eric was out guiding a client, which he does all the time. They're constantly putting people on crappie. And as a matter of fact, these folks, if I'm not mistaken, came in from Georgia to fish with Brian and his team and Eric as a guide. And little did they know while they were out that Miss Thelma was going to catch the new Percy Priest record. 3 pounds, Terry.
White crappie.
3 pounds even. White crappie is just right at 17 inches long.
Just right up the road.
Slab.
Right up the road.
Oh my God, you're right.
So, it's summer crappie. Terry, a lot of people don't think you can catch them in the summer, but you can. It's just these guys know where to find them. They know how to get on them, and they're out there every day.
And they hunt for them for you.
They do. They hunt for them, and they're finding them on deep structure usually. I may even try to see if we can get Eric to call in here in a little while, and we'll talk to him a little bit about, before I give too much away, I'll see if maybe I can get him to call in, and we'll talk a little bit about what they did. But again, big congratulations to Eric and to Brian both for doing that, and of course to Miss Thelma on catching that fish, because I know, and they were out celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary.
What about
That's
that?
why they were
That's
down here.
great. And I bet that they probably went in Fate Sanders and got a cheeseburger.
I would imagine they probably,
you know what I mean? Something over there, because I would have had.
You can't go to Fate Sanders and not get a cheeseburger.
Absolutely.
You got to have one. I think it makes Dayton catch more fish.
That's
to be
right.
honest
That
with
grease on my fingers that comes
always
off of
sluggish
it.
before
That's
the
right.
cheeseburger at Fate Sanders, and the natural was you good to go. But no, fantastic on catching that fish, and just goes to show again, quality fish, crappie can be caught in the summertime, and they can be caught, you know, pretty handily. But you have to be able to get over top of it.
And people that's watched shows prior to the night, you can tell the size of the crappie. You had one guy that told you he would just search for that one singled out crappie on the live scope for the big fish. So you know, Eric will give us some details, but he might have seen that crappie and knew it was big, or he might not. But as much as he's out there, I bet he can tell you what's on that live scope.
Yeah, he knows what's going on, and they had been catching some, I will say this much about it, they had been catching some white bass and some crappie, some quality white bass, and he thought that possibly she had caught a good
bass.
white bass.
Yeah. Right.
And he said once that thing rolled up and he saw the side of it, he would get the net.
Yeah, boy.
He knew then.
Get out there.
I mean, no doubt about it when that big thing rolled up. I mean, a 3-pound crappie is a big time feat. So, and again, Terry, do you change anything with crappie? And I mean, I know you catch them year round, you fish for them year round, but you throwing smaller baits or anything right there, doing anything different with it being so hot?
I'm using a 432nd. I'm using 2-pound test line.
So everything's smaller.
Everything's small and slow.
Yeah. Well, are you still looking for brush in 10, 12 foot? Or are you having to get deeper in that right now?
I'm actually looking for the drop-off. So if you can find the channel, they're going to come in close for a little while, but they're going to run right back to the channel. So if you know where that eddy is or you know where that channel is, if you fish right off the break, then that's where they're going to be.
That's where they're
the
at.
mouth of those creeks are perfect for this time of weather.
Right now.
Right now.
So there's your first tip right there for tonight. Your first good tip. That's
All
where
right,
you
let
want
me
to be.
give you the second tip, y'all, real quick. When I was a kid, when I was 14, 15, 16, I was bow hunting because I couldn't catch bass. They wasn't real active. I'd come home from bow hunting, wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden, Daddy's got sauger and walleye in the middle of September and October, so we're not far away from getting
just
some
about
toothy
time.
critters in the freezer.
And that's some of our friends we've got around home. That's their favorite fish. So they're looking forward to us getting
Sauger and
catching some of
walleye's on the
those.
way for the winter time.
It is. Well, guys, let's go over right now and do this week's wild game forecast. This week's wild game forecast has been sponsored by our friends over at Wilson Bank and Trust. They've been taking care of all your banking and financial needs now for over 30 years. Be sure to stop into one of their branches and tell them thank you for all they do for us here at the show. All right, guys. Well, Dayton, you and I noticed something tonight on the way down
That's
here.
right.
And that was that moon up in the sky.
That's right.
Now, I know my buddy Gerald, if he is at home watching tonight, I'll be surprised because he's probably out on Center Hill or one of, and Snow and several of those guys. They're probably, Bobby Gentry's probably out on Del Holla. Good time right now for you night fishermen. As you know, that moon is up right now this weekend. I think it goes full Saturday. Is that right, Dayton?
From the 8th through the 10th of this month, we got a full moon. And then, take a couple of days for it to start dying off, but it's
time. It's a
full
good
moon,
time to be out there right now.
Yeah, your deer's going to be moving. They're going to be feeding. Everything moves on a full moon.
It does.
It does. Nature works. People work on a full moon, but
if you ask any EMT, hospital worker, they'll all tell you that.
That's another deal. But don't think a human is not affected by a full moon. Every creature is.
Yeah, the fish definitely are.
Definitely.
And the deer are for sure. So, well, guys, we want to remind you to follow us on Facebook. Keep up with us there. We're actually going to be taking a winter hunt with us this coming Saturday off of Facebook. So we'll be right back with this week's Pictures of the Week and some more Southern Woods and Waters.